turn the screen on. No, she's going to be a little late. Okay, will you give us the high sign when we can start, or can we?
Of course, yeah.
All right, ready when you are.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the May 15, 2025 meeting of the Town of Southampton Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is being held live and also via video conferencing in accordance with the Town Board's enactment of Local Law 14 of 2022. Our next meeting and those following will also be held in person here at Town Hall and will continue to allow for remote participation, so please keep checking the town's website for updates and any new information. If you wish to view tonight's live meeting only and not participate, please do not join the Zoom meeting and instead go to the town's website for viewing access. With that, I'd ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those of you here with us tonight, in case of an emergency evacuation, please exit through the rear doors of this room to one of the staircases across the hall and continue downstairs and outside through the main entrance. Do not attempt to use the elevators during an emergency evacuation. In case of a medical emergency, the automated external defibrillator and first aid kit are both located in this hallway on this floor opposite the elevator. Restrooms are located across the hall from this room. We'll begin this meeting with public hearings. We have applicants and members of the public here with us live and also standing by via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. CTV will mute the speakers on Zoom until it's their time to give testimony before the board. Please be patient. If you find you're having difficulties accessing the hearing, visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. Also, for those of you in this boardroom, please silence your cell phones and refrain from speaking to one another as it interferes with the recording of our proceedings. Tonight, board member Helen Burgess is participating via Zoom, and board member Bob Macedonio is absent. A reminder that applicants, agents, and members of the public speaking other than attorneys will be sworn in, will state their address for the record, and will offer their testimony as it relates to the application before the board. In order to consider properly every application before us tonight, individuals commenting on a particular application will have a time limit of 3 minutes. Also, before handing in any submissions to the board tonight, please make sure the documents identify the ZBA application name, tax map number, applicant's name, and should also be written on your certified receipts. Unless otherwise stated at the end of an individual application hearing, all applications will remain open for written comments for all purposes until a set date. Those written comments can be addressed to members of the board and sent via email, mail, and/or dropped off in Town Hall to the board secretary, Candace Cowell, in the building department. At this time, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of our May 1st, 2025 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Redmond?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess? Not here, not yet. Chair votes aye. Okay, the motion is approved. John, would you take us through the agenda?
Yes. Starting with adjournments, turning to number 7 on the agenda. Application of holdover application of John T. Montecalvo, 1129, 1089, and 1169 Spionk Riverhead, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-301-2-6, 7, and 8. This the hearing on this application will be adjourned to August 7th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Kane?
Aye.
Ms. Redmond?
Aye.
Mr. Redmond? Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Number 8 on the agenda, hearing the application of Wilderness Trail JV LLC, landlocked property in North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-79-1-33. The hearing on this application will be adjourned to July 3rd.
Second.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Redmond.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Number 10 on the agenda, application of Ariat LLC, 292 West Montauk Highway, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-253-1-25. The hearing on this application will be adjourned to 7/17.
Second.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Redmond.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
On the decision calendar, the decision in the application of Eric Grave and Carola M. Grave, 9 Rebadam Lane, Shinnecock Hills, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-211-4-2. Decision in this application will be adjourned to June 5th.
Second.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Redmond.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald. Chair votes aye.
Okay, the decision in the application of 82 Trees LLC, 82 Trees Lane, Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-67-1-2.16. I move to reopen this application for written submissions.
Second.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Redmond.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I further move to close the application on 82 Trees LLC for decision later tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
Application, decision in the application of Joseph and Valerie Bernardo, 25 Boathouse Road, Shinnecock Hills, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-176-1-37. I move to reopen this application for written submissions.
Second.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Redmond.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I move to close this application for written decision later tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The decision in the application of Denise Sokolich, 102 Cold Spring Point Road, Tuckahoe, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-155-1-31. I move to reopen this application for written submissions.
Second.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Redmond.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Move to close this application for written decision later tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, number 1 on the agenda, minor variance review, application of Cole and Heidi Magner, 791 Montauk Highway, Queog, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-371-1-34.1. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for proposed pool on a non-conforming lot, Section 330-6, General Regulations, that references Section 330-11, Residence District's Table of Dimensional Regulations for an accessory distance from street setback from 70 feet to 52.8 feet, and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction.
This is a minor variance, so there will be no public hearing on this, and we will close the hearing for a decision tonight. Do we vote on that, Katie?
Yep.
Okay. Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Redmond.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, there will be decision later.
Okay, number 2 on the agenda, application of Atterbury LLC, 20 Westway Drive, Shinnecock Hills, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-233-2-38. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code, Section 330-116, extension that relates to 330-167B, specific types of variances to permit the expansion of a one-family dwelling that is situated on a parcel with a second one-family dwelling, to wit, from the existing 3,925 square feet to 4,725 square feet, and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction.
Okay, are either of you attorneys?
No, we are both architects.
Oh, in which case, let me swear you in. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, we
Okay. Please state your name individually and your addresses.
I'm Danny Canaris, 172 Longview Road, Southampton, New York.
Okay.
And Nick Martin of Martin Architects, and at 2193 Sagaponic, PO Box 406.
Thank you very much. Okay, so do you want to tell us about this application?
Sure, I'll jump in. We filed the original building permit. I believe it was, we received it in August 2023. Construction began. We made a couple of changes. There was maybe an additional filing. The permit was approved. Yeah, we had a permit to proceed. We started construction, and it turned out the fact that there's 2 COs on the property, that it needs a variance for the addition. And bill inspector brought that up, and we filed the ZBA application, and we're here today.
Okay, so as I understand it, the question is whether the addition exceeds the limitation of 50% of, correct? Katie, do you want to just
Yep.
verify that?
Yes, well, we've seen a couple of these. Sometimes the building department thinks as long as it meets the setbacks, doesn't need any variances, and they forget that presence of two dwellings is a non-conforming use. And so they're always supposed to come back to the ZBA for the expansion of a non-conforming use, so the board can kind of track how many expansions have been done on the property. And if you look at the application, you'll see that in 1999, this board did approve expansion, and so they were tracking it. But then for this 2023 one, the building department didn't notice it. So luckily, the applicants, came in to
That's right.
correct it, just to track it. And so what I'm gonna ask Danny to do is just kind of show you, how much is proposed, how much has already been done, and how much will be left.
And the new well has been shut down in part, isn't it?
It's been slowed down a bit with the construction.
Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and tell us how much, how much of the variance has been used up, as so to speak. John, did you want to jump in on anything?
I left this one.
Yeah, so looking back at the history, I believe there were 2 prior variances. I'll just go to the original number. The house originally, before the original variance, was 7138 square feet. So the rule is 50% expansion. That gives you 3,569 square feet to play with. There was one variance, 1502, and a second variance for 802. That gave us remaining 1,265 square feet remaining. From my conversations with the building department, we calculated habitable living space, and we are proposing this current iteration 810 square feet. So we are under what is remaining. Understanding of it.
Okay, so let me just summarize. We have left 1,265 square feet.
Yes,
Your proposal calls for habitable living space of how much?
810.
810 square feet. So you are clearly under the 1,265 square feet.
How I understand it, yes.
Okay. And so the reason you're coming to us is a recognition of that, and that we, confirming that in fact that is legitimate. Is that correct, Katie?
Yep, that's correct. And then we also have them just go through the area variance standards, to show that the proposal is consistent with the character of the neighborhood. I mean, it doesn't look like there's any other variances that are required, right? So it
Well,
meets
there
all
are
of
no
the setbacks.
setback, pyramid, nothing else.
No, we're within the existing setbacks. We're not expanding the building in any direction further than it already is.
It's really more of a renovation with a small addition.
Most of the additional square footage is within a pre-existing basement that was a crawl space, and we're kind of making it full height. So in terms of the neighbors, they don't see the building get any bigger or smaller. It looks the same from the street.
John, you
We're
went to
almost done
see
with
it.
this, right? Yeah, you guys are almost done with that.
It's close.
Yeah, it's just
We
about
were
done.
slowed down, the building department shut it down. But, yes.
Well, better to get this whole thing clarified so it doesn't become an issue in the future.
That's right, we're coming under our own volition.
Yeah, no, and I think that that's smart, because you don't want to ever have this dangling out there. Let's clarify it and get it correct
Yeah,
now.
it fits. It's not like too big for the property. It fits right in.
And it's only on the main building, it's not on the guest house. There's nothing being done.
That's right.
The guest house is just getting new siding or something, or what?
The guest house,
Some renovation, I think.
had a minor interior renovation.
Oh, interior, okay. Okay. John, did you have any other questions? This is your application. so-
No, pretty straightforward from there. When you explained it, now I understand it more, to
Yeah,
be
Yeah.
honest with you.
right. Is there anybody else on the board who wishes to be heard on this?
I'm with John. Thanks for the explanation.
Yes, that was a little confusing. Yeah. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on 20 Westway Drive? Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to be heard on 20 Westway Drive?
No one on Zoom.
Dan, did you submit a copy of the you said you had a letter of non-jurisdiction from the Conservation Board?
Has it?
Oh, the building department has it? Okay, so we have to refer it to Conservation Board. They'll confirm that you have a letter of non-jurisdiction. We have to refer to Suffolk County Planning Commission because it's on the water. Because the building permit was issued in error, we can put it down for that June 5th decision, but we can't render the decision until we hear back from those two entities, so I'm okay putting it on for the next, the June 5th meeting, so long as we have those.
Okay, so do you understand that, John? So that there would be written decisions. We close the
Right.
public
We're
hearing.
gonna close it
Yep.
for in submissions,
For 527.
527,
Yep.
and a decision for 6/5.
Second.
Mr. Redpath,
Aye.
Mr. Leonard,
Aye.
Ms. Kane,
Aye.
Mr. McDonald,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay. Thank you very much for the explanation.
Okay, number 3 on the agenda, the application of Elizabeth Girardi Schoen, 11 East Dunellen Road, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-299-1-26.1. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed single-family two-story dwelling on a non-conforming lot. 1, Section 330-11, Residence District's Table of Dimensional Regulations for principal front yard setback of 35.53 feet, where 60 feet is required, and 2, Section 330-84D, height pyramid, for a total pyramid encroachment of 270.23 cubic feet, 77.12 cubic feet on the northwest, and 193.11 cubic feet on the northeast elevation, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Are you an attorney?
Architect.
Okay, let me swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. Please state your name and address.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, my name is Jared Mandel, architect, 25 Hillside Avenue, Williston Park, New York, 11596.
Okay, Jared, do you want to tell us about the
Sure.
application?
So as the architect of the project and obviously coming into the emotions of building a new house with a homeowner that's resided in the existing home that's there right now, obviously we try to hit the perfect balance, which, works well for the neighboring properties and the homeowner's property themselves, so there's a lot of respect that goes into our design, especially with the history in the neighborhood that they have, and trying to walk that balancing act with a unique property. I feel that the reason why the board is here is to explore these situations that there might be some unique situations. So as an architect, as I get hired, I always like to play it out and really go through the motions of, is there a unique situation on this property? And there's a couple that I'll walk the board through, and I'll try to walk how we walk the lines and trying to be as sensitive as possible as we design the house.
Okay.
So Mr. and Mrs. Schoen, as we started to work on the house, let us know the requirements. They didn't want to go too large. They wanted to use what they could accommodate to spend their time there, have their family there, typical uses of a residential home. As we talked about the program, and as you'll even see in the floor plans, you'll see it's what we need. There's a main room in the back of the house, there's a walk-in in the front, there's a master on the first floor, and there's a garage. Second floor has 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. We're not going excessive, they're pretty reasonable sized bedrooms. Some of the bulk of the house, I like to consider, as we're talking about square footages before I get into the zoning, is really, as it lays out, it's roughly around a 4,600 walkable square foot house. Garage is about 500 square feet, so you take that out, we're roughly talking, a low 4,000 square foot house, so like 4,100 square feet on the house. So as we started to work it out, some of the things that we kind of want to bring to the board's attention as we started to design. We did look at renovating. It just didn't make sense with the amount of additions or how the additions were put onto the house and the quality of how it existed. So we did explore a renovation in the beginning. We did some research. House was built in 1957. CO issued in 1997 from my research. Where there was another addition put on in 1999. And just the way the foundations laid out on that house was just shaky. So as we really kind of got to the bottom of it, we realized we needed this new house. So as we started to plan for the location of the house, they did put in a pool, not knowing that this project was going to happen or come to fruition. It just happened to unfold that way. And when we started to plan this renovation, we started to figure out the best location for the house. And what we thought as the architect and agreed with by the owner is that there are, so kind of a history on this property. It has to be looked at. It's not an internal lot like we'd be typically used to. So on this property, there's 2 side yards. There's a front yard and a rear yard, but it lays out a little bit different than how you would typically look at a house. On this particular house, when you look at the front, the side yard is on the west side. There's another side yard on the north side. We're contending, these are good numbers to realize because what we're trying to also work with is the front line of the building or the front line of the road that establishes that front yard is also becoming restrictive because of the curvature. So we have the curvature of the road that's creating the front yard. We have a different type of condition where we have 2 side yards and a rear yard that's, trying to think of the best way to describe it. It's in the northwest corner. There's an angular dimension that dimensions it 48.28, which happens to be a conforming number. So we're battling with these 2 lines. We have an existing pool in place. So I feel that any way we laid this house out, there would be some sort of a variance. So what we actually laid it out to be is we took the sidelines, so as we define it as the west sideline and the north sideline.
The north sideline being this line here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the north sideline, we used the lines of the existing house. So using those same lines and not making them any worse than what they exist today, we use that as a baseline. So the house held those lines and we worked the house forward, trying to keep it as shallow as possible and at the same time going as wide as possible with not encroaching upon something, the construction that would affect the pool. So we were essentially locked into this, we'll call it the northwest corner of the property to generate this house.
Can I just get clarification? You're intending to keep the pool
Yes.
in the present location, and the proposed patio at grade might be new, but the pool's staying where it is.
Yes.
And you're locating the building in between the remaining portion of the lot and where the house is. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, there's some challenges. Also the challenges of as zoning codes are written, I believe that in the district that we're in an R40, the minimum lot size, typical lot size would be 40,000. We have basically half that, 20,400, which immediately gives us a challenge or presents a challenge that may be unnatural or maybe unplanned.
27,000.
Sorry, I said 20. Oh, yes, yeah, 27,000. So essentially we're regardless, well, not regardless, but good point. But we're restricted, or maybe the intentions of the code may not fully be laid out exactly how it should be for our property. So I think that's one of the reasons why we're running into these challenges is the unnatural curves and the undersized property. And that drives obviously the regulations. Laying out the boundaries that we're talking about the west side setback, which essentially that west side setback is requirement is 20 feet. And we're proposing 26.8 in the front. And keep in mind, we did keep the buildings far over, but we did want to have space for the pool, so that established that line. And then the north side yard setback is, the requirement is 20 feet, we're at 23.84. So we're conforming on those minimum side yard setbacks. As far as the front yard setback, that's the challenge that we did have, where a 60-foot setback would be required, and we do have a 35.53 setback, which, again, I would agree would be very aggressive if we had a natural rectangular property, but being that there's not many other ways to build this house without encroaching upon that setback, we designed a house that functionally works the best way possible and works in the matrix of construction and design and what we want it to be, so we can create almost the longest, we'll call it, in this case, the poolside wall, that becomes essentially their backyard. So obviously, naturally, you'd wanna, in a perfect world, you'd wanna have the master looking onto the backyard, onto the beautiful pool, onto the view, of the limited view that they do have. And you'd want the family room to have that same position. So we elongated it to some degree to get to capture that, which drove that front yard setback. Some things to keep in mind, we talked about the FAR, not being as large as essentially the house could be if we really said, let's build the biggest house we wanted to build. Really, in this case, since we're not going by FAR, we're going by lot coverage, which really drives lot coverage setbacks, which drives the overall FAR of the home, or floor area of the home. So in this case, I do want to point out that our lot coverage is in an area where we're only requesting 10.9% and we're allowed 20. And that's also considering that we have an undersized lot. So, to me, just thinking about numbers, I feel that we were as sensitive as possible with this design. Obviously the heights align, but we do have, because of the setback issues and because where we had to put the house, we have a small section of the pyramid law that we're asking or requesting relief for, which happens to be on the west side of the home in the top left corner part of the roof. So it's not a major portion of the roof. It's essentially a 5'7" deep piece by 13.9 foot piece. And in the back, it's a 16.58 piece by 8.36, which if you take the roof line percentage of roof line, it can't be more than 5% of the roof that we're actually clipping. So it's not a major portion, which again, I think is an indicator of just the challenges we're dealing with a unique lot. And that being said, the owners, I know we went into a lot of the zoning, the owner, Mr. and Mrs. Sean, they had a pre-planned vacation. They would have been here 100%, but they're actually, I believe they're on the Zoom link, and they wanted to be here to answer any questions. They may even be available. I don't know if they're able to talk on.
Yes, they
the
can.
Zoom link, so
We
if do
swear
have
them
any-
in, but yes, if they wish to comment, they can.
So they plan to be end users of this house. There's no plan of sale. There's no plan of development and sale. So it's an end user that's been a member of the community for some time now, and they want to continue to be and continue to have their family grow into this house and enjoy it with their family. And
John, this is your application. Do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I don't really have any questions. I think your presentation made all of the points and many more that didn't necessarily need to be made. It's really clear. First of all, your pyramid relief is very minimal, so that's not an issue for me at all. Also, the other houses in the neighborhood are of the size that you are planning to build. And the problem that you have is that the lot is such a weird shape that no matter what you do, you're going to encroach on the front yard setback.
Yeah.
So to me, 35 feet, when 60 feet is the requirement, isn't really, under the circumstances, also considering the fact that you're keeping the pool. And that kind of constrains you to put things to the western side of the property. And it's clear that I don't even know what the setbacks are on the original existing house. If they're 60 feet, I'd be shocked.
Oh, yes,
But-
yes.
So I have no problem with this application. If anybody else has questions.
Do you want to read the comments from the building department?
Yeah, I was gonna ask whether or not, yeah, have
You
you,
heard
have
the-
you seen these about the fencing, and have you had a chance to look at these?
Just-
Would you please? At
Well,
the
why don't you,
bottom.
let's read them out. It says fences on the property shall comply with the following. Any fence located within the right-of-way shall be removed or relocated to be contained within the property lines. Any fence over 4 feet in height requires a building permit and must be located in conforming setback. No fence over 2 feet in height within the corner clearance. Existing shed and freestanding chimney shall be removed or relocated to conforming setback. And page Z1 of the plans dated 12/10/24, prepared by Jared Mandel, list a typo on the box labeled average natural grade calculation. When adding corner elevations, the correct total is 49.8. So those you should be aware of and address, obviously. I mean, it's not part
You
of the
don't have a copy
variance.
of that?
My
Would we be able
office
to-
Most likely does, but I
Okay,
can-
so take
you
a look
can
at it
look it
and
up.
just comply with it.
Check it on mine, Jared.
Thank you very much, Rose.
Okay. Do the owners wish to be heard on this application, or? Okay, in the meantime, I'm going to ask if anybody in the audience wishes to be heard on 11 East Denellan Road. Please come up. Are you an attorney?
No.
And let me swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Barbara Pierce. My address is 9 East Donnellan Road.
Okay, Barbara, what was your comments?
So I live on the west side of the property that we're discussing.
Okay.
And we're talking about a large structure here, 58 feet by 48 feet by 32 feet tall, and 3 variances are requested. The pyramid law variance is requested for the northwest corner, that would be mine. The purpose of that, as I understand it, is to prevent a structure from looming over the neighboring property due to its proximity and height. As I understand it, this particular variance is relatively small. I can't quite imagine what it would feel like when I'm in the back corner of my property, when I'm working on my garden, but it would probably be a little bit different than it is now. Continuing looking to the south, there would be, from my property, there would be a 48-foot wall, mostly 32 feet tall. That's about 12 feet longer than the existing structure, and most of it would be closer to my property. It's also taller than the existing structure. Then the front wall begins and goes across the existing front yard, basically cutting it in half. It's at a different angle than the existing structure, and so it goes further south across the property. And it's much longer, 58 feet, and taller, 32 feet. The existing structure is not a full 2-story building. And I don't know the purpose of all zoning setback requirements, but I suspect that front yard setback is to provide some uniformity in a neighborhood and some feeling of space. This would be gone if this front yard variance is granted. The front yard will be reduced to almost half of the required 60 feet, bringing it very close to our narrow private road. Instead of an open front yard, I would be seeing the long, tall front facade of the house. I'm sure some of the sky would also be blocked. My sense of the air and the light and the space would be severely reduced, as would the other neighbors. Initially, I know the owners planned to modify the existing house, and the design would probably have been for a smaller structure, but yet would have met their needs. But apparently, well, I heard that the basement couldn't support the addition, so here we are. The property is a half acre, but because of the pool, the proposed house is crowded into less than half of that space, requiring the 3 variances. The application states that the construction will be in the character of the neighborhood, but this large footprint is not in the character of the neighborhood. The other houses are not that size. My house is 2,200 square feet. East Donnellan is a small private road with only a few houses, and the open spaces give the neighborhood its character. So there must be alternative shapes and sizes of a building footprint that could fit more easily into the current setback requirements than this proposed big rectangle. the proposed structure seems too large and overwhelming for the property. I have a question for the attorney, but anyway, this is a little uncomfortable for me because I like Bob and Liz. They're good neighbors. I want them, I like being their neighbor. But I'm hopeful that we can work out some alternative that would satisfy everybody. Because other neighbors are here. I don't know if they're going to talk. Another neighbor couldn't be here and submitted comments. And so especially the proximity to the road is an issue. But there was no consultation with the neighbors before this. You said the house was 4,600 square feet or something. Didn't your application say it was 2,900? I mean, somewhere in the pages that we got, all we got was a plot plan and the few pages of the application. And somewhere in that table of all the dimensions and everything.
Quarter is not a required calculation, so it couldn't, unless it's a preference of mine, but none of my drawings indicate.
I mean, the rectangle is 48 by 58, but it said that the square footage of the house in that table in the letter. Oh, maybe it was on the drawing. I don't remember.
Probably on the
I
survey.
don't have it with me.
Probably on the survey. Okay, thank you very much.
But anyway, okay. Thank you.
Well over 3 minutes.
Yeah, and also, they're not asking for a side yard variance. It's not required. They
That's
within-
right. They're not asking for a side yard variance, and I would object less to that than to this front yard variance. So,
And
there's
all the
room
other,
for-
all
there's
the other
room-
houses on that street have front yards pretty close to the street, so,
Not 35 feet. Well, most of them are not 35 feet.
okay,
But anyway,
okay.
Also, ma'am, you do have to understand that the way that the lot is shaped,
yes, I know, I
you
see
could
that.
hold on, let me
Yeah,
finish.
okay, sorry.
You could never put a house on there without violating the 60-foot setback. It's just not a possibility.
The existing house didn't. The existing house had 59.3 inches according to their data.
That's
Well-
still a violation.
Yes, but it's a lot less
Okay,
than
okay.
25 feet.
Thank you very much.
So anyway, that's
Thank
my
you.
opinion. Candace, were you going to read Larry and Judy's letter, or should I?
No, it can be submitted. It
Pardon
can-
me? I can't read it. You have to read it. Oh, okay.
All right, is there anybody else in the audience who wishes to be heard?
Hi, sorry, real quick. Robert, the owner, is on. I was
Okay.
here.
Hi, Bob.
Okay,
Well, why don't
Robert,
we-
let's,
Let's hold him, finish
yeah, why
them,
don't we listen to the comments first, and then Bob, you can come on.
and he can respond.
Okay,
Got it.
hi.
I'm
Please.
not an attorney.
All right, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your name and address.
Mark Himmelsbach, 18 East Nellen Road, Hampton Bays.
Okay, Mark?
And my main concern with the application is the scale and the mass. It is a small lot that's been there. That subdivision goes back to the early 40s. On the plat map, it shows this 20-foot road. In reality, the road is about 12 feet wide, especially where the curve is that everyone's speaking to. And that's the point where the front yard variance is going to encroach on the road right at that curve. It just comes very close there. The scale and the mass on this narrow private road, it's not in keeping with the other homes in the area or any of the other structures on the road. In fact, our house is about 1,800 feet. Our neighbors is probably 2,200 feet. The people who aren't here that submitted the email, they're probably in the 2,000-foot range. This is overwhelming in size. And the applicant's drawings, the elevations, they depict a maximum height allowable. They're at 3111. Basically, they're an inch under maximum height. The way they got there, the floor system is raised in the new building. It would be raised 3 feet above grade, and then they have 10-foot first floor walls, which is going to put the second floor right up around 14 feet or so above ground. Then the second floor walls, then the roof line, which is an 11 and a 12 pitch, correct? I think one way you could get around some of the pyramid questions would be to adjust wall heights and adjust roof pitch. Just maybe an alternative. But the main thing that that I think is really problematic with this application is the proximity to the road. We're talking about a 32-foot high building, 35 feet back from the road. It's almost would be in violation of the pyramid law if it were a little bit closer. Basically what's happening is a building envelope is being skewed to the southwest so that it runs more parallel with the road. I understand that, but when you buy a piece of property, you get a survey. It shows you the lot lines. It shows you everything on the lot. The pool was existing on the lot when the Shones bought this property. So, you know, there weren't any hiddens when they bought it. They knew what they bought. And so, you know, I don't see a hardship there. If you know what you're buying and your intent is to build something that's almost 5,000 square feet of building on a road and you need this many variances, I think it's a big ask. I think 3 asks is a big ask. And I don't think that if this were revisited design-wise and was more conforming with the code, I don't think you'd be getting any pushback from the neighbors. Because, as Barbara said, everyone likes Bob and Liz. Problem is, we don't want the building to become overwhelming so that it's, you know, in the road.
Okay.
And it might be sensible if the board or someone on the board were to ride by there, take a look at what actually is existing
Yes, I did.
versus what is
Did you go?
proposed.
We have a couple of board members who actually went to see it, so we'll come
Okay,
back
so
to-
then
Okay,
everyone knows.
thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Can I just wanted, yes, I understand. I noticed that the ceiling heights are 10 feet and 8 feet.
Mhm.
Is there some leeway there on ceiling heights? You know, generally when we grant pyramid relief, we like to, you know,
I mean, I'll go a little bit into the pyramid relief and some of the, you know, the items.
not a lot of pyramid relief, but what's coming up in the discussion here is the size, the mass,
I
the.
mean, honestly,
Right, but it doesn't violate height restrictions.
No, I
So
understand.
I
I'm
don't
just
see-
asking sometimes when we do have pyramid relief,
It's
we do.
270 feet of, cubic feet of relief. It's,
if we were to just clip off the corners, which honestly does not serve well for the design,
Yeah,
but would serve the code,
yeah.
it would be, at the least to say, really not the greatest thing to do, but it would fulfill the requirement. Which if I could do something so easy like that as an architect, it shows that it's something that's so close to the edge that it wouldn't make sense to lower the ceiling heights.
what about pulling the building back?
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go. Is there?
I mean, I see that you,
We're willing to.
look, you know what? So you don't get the relief in the front, you get the relief in the back.
Sure, that works for,
Right?
that works for us. I mean, I'd have to confirm with the owner,
Because you're
but
working with 23.84 feet in the back right now.
Because I also want to respond that, in my opinion, as an architect, front yard setbacks are generated for uniformity of neighborhoods, as we discussed. This is a winding road, this is a winding line that leads to, that has a dead end. So,
But hold on, but the only problem that I have with moving it back is that you could affect pyramid. And that's not what we should be doing. We shouldn't be increasing pyramid in order to gain a few feet in the front,
there's
and
a
you're not
big
gonna gain
balance
that
between-
many feet in the front.
that's why I was saying I'd be okay with, because honestly, I think we found the perfect balance for this property. And knowing that, I know that the neighbors could be upset about the situation, and I never like to put it this way, but if this property wasn't somebody that cared, it could be a narrow, really large, high property and be in a different spot. And we've done the best we can with the situation being very sensitive. And I spent a lot of time putting the building in the position it is and saying that this building front yard setback is what is affecting the road. I just don't see that.
See, I don't know how my other board members feel, but I would prefer to give the front yard relief as opposed to pyramid
Well,
relief.
what's your required rear yard setback?
required.
But it's a side yard.
Yeah, because we have an angle.
What
So
looks
if you-
like a rear yard is really a
if you look at
side
the
yard.
angle, there's an angular
Well, whatever, what's
position.
the required setback there?
Required rear
20.
yard setback.
Well, whatever that yard is that John's
70
suggesting.
feet. We have.
That's rear yard. Side yard is
Sorry,
20.
yeah, sorry, I'm looking at this.
Side yard is 20, I believe.
And it looks like you're at 26, no?
23.
Well, to the north line of the property, you're at 2384. What is that setback? What is the required setback to the north property, United side of the property,
20.
whatever you call it?
20 feet.
Janice is saying it's 20.
Okay,
we're
so you
more
got 3 feet there.
So this is a terrific moment for me to disclose that I live on Dunellen
on this.
Road, 3 houses to the west of Lynn. So I know the street really well. Walked my dog a million times, and I know the street well, and it's very walkable. You've been there. It's very walkable. You know, not cars ripping through and that sort of thing. So one of the features of the experience of walking or bike riding the street is the front side and the yards are part of the entire experience. So I understand the concern of the neighbors about mass and size. I think I appreciate the spot you're in literally to try to make this fit. I think you're hearing what the neighbors are saying. And I take John's point entirely that, you know, the curvature of the road creates this unique, I mean, if the road were straight, you probably wouldn't even have the setback problem necessarily, but it's not. And, you know, the extent to which any consideration could be given, you know, to, well, one thing for sure, there are a series of reasonably mature trees that front the road through most of the properties there, which is part of the character of the experience of being there. Your picture just shows the house. I hope that it doesn't look like that when it's done.
No, this is just exploratory, and we'd be open to even submitting a planting plan. You know, we're understanding of that.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
The neighborhood has a different character, we understand.
it is not uncommon now for when a project gets redeveloped that the 4 corners of the entire lot are destroyed and the whole thing is re-engineered from corner to corner. And something like that on this lot would be way out of character with the community. So, you know,
Okay, there's
That's a
somebody
concern.
else in the
Yeah, go
audience
ahead.
who wishes to be heard.
No, but what was,
The only reason we do that
Kevin,
is
what
so
are you
that we
saying?
can freeze and-
Kevin, what are you saying? What's the upshot? What do you think? What do you?
well, you know, there's the building request and there's the rest of the development on the site of the property itself. So there's, you know, the natural screening present with the landscape that's there is some mitigation for what's.
And you'd like to see that kept intact?
Thank you for the question. Yes.
Okay.
The owners, just to be clear, they want it to be kept intact too, because you could
I
figure
could imagine.
exposed. You know,
Serves their
like,
interest too.
if you
Yes.
look at the lot, it would be very detrimental to be.
Okay, so would you like to come up to the podium? Are you an attorney?
I'm a retired attorney.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes. So
Okay.
go ahead. Please state your name and
My name
address.
is Beth Leaf. I live at 12 East Dunellen Road, right across the street from the Shones. And like my other neighbors, I really do like them so much. And I know they have been great neighbors. And I know they want to continue to be great neighbors. And I want to be a great neighbor to them. But when I walked outside today to look at how close they were going to be to the road, it was like it was on our property, it felt. It really changed the feel of the street. And Mr. McDonald, you know the way it curves down, and we all have gorgeous front yards, and we're both my husband and I are very concerned, very, very concerned about how close it is to the road.
Okay.
Thank
You know, I think anytime there's new development and there's a new house, it always is troubling because, you know, change is difficult.
Well,
And I appreciate that. I
I
do.
understand
And
that, but we have lived other places there. We've been through, we put in to,
So what they're asking for.
and the other thing is our house is not nearly as big as 4,000 square feet.
Has there been any discussion about modifying the mass of the house and perhaps coming down in square footage?
We feel like we've made the concession kind of to get to where we are at a minimum. You know, we also have to think always, you know, their plan is to be in the house. But even as an architect myself today with, God knows, every single new house that we have in our office is 10-foot ceilings at a minimum. And
Well,
unfortunately,
okay,
like
but-
I say, the real estate now, 10 years from now, I explain this to clients that when you walk in, just like now, we walk into a 7-foot high ceiling in a house and it drives the value down.
But there's a difference between 10 and 7.
Yes,
right?
a
I
big
don't think
difference.
anybody's suggesting 7. The one thing I want to share that I think I'm hearing is that it is true that if you pushed it back, you might have more pyramid issues. But this might be one of those times where that's the right trade-off. And maybe if you went from 10 to 9 feet and pushed it back a little, it would be less of a pyramid impact and create less resistance from the neighbors. And I do feel like people are trying to say having it so close in the front or getting the relief you've requested does seem to change the character of the neighborhood, although I did not go by and I don't know the character of the neighborhood.
Is there anybody else, before I go back to you, I want to just check if there's anybody else who wishes to be heard on this application. Thank you very much, Beth. Is there anybody on Zoom who wishes to be heard on this application? And perhaps the owners want to come on at this point?
One sec, bringing Robert on.
And we, you know, obviously I'd have to discuss with the owners if
Yes,
we're
of
gonna make
course.
some modifications. Obviously, we wanna do it.
We
best.
understand.
Definitely.
No, we understand.
And I would also say one thing I think I heard from at least one neighbor is that they didn't feel like they were consulted, and so that could be a good opportunity to have some
And I do believe
conversations.
that is misstated because they specifically reached out to the neighbors that they could reach out to. They are away, but they did. And Robert, I didn't specifically see it, so I can't vouch for
Okay.
it, but
Okay.
Robert could expand on that.
Peter, is he coming on?
Yeah, Robert joined as a panelist, just waiting for the video, I suppose.
Okay.
Hello, can we be heard?
We can hear you, we can't see you.
Okay, well, you might guess this is not Robert, although he's sitting right next to me.
Okay. Well, don't say
And-
anything until I swear you in.
All right, ma'am,
Okay, so we're not getting visual?
I'm trying.
Okay.
It doesn't seem to be working.
Oh, close. It was close.
Yes, something's happening. Okay, maybe now. Oh,
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, good. Are either of you attorneys?
No,
No.
Okay, then let me swear you both in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
we do.
We do.
Okay, please individually state your name and addresses.
Elizabeth Girardi, shown home address is 4 Summit Avenue in East Williston, New York, 11596.
Okay, Robert?
And Robert Schoen at 4 Summit Avenue, East Williston, New York, 11596.
Okay, good. All right, so you want to comment?
Just a couple, and I'll start with, we've actually owned in Hampton Bays for 20 years. We love Hampton Bays. And I wanted to comment as well that part of the challenge, we were talking about the trees and how much we love the trees. There is a gorgeous Japanese maple between us and the back fence. And one of the reasons we wouldn't push that way is I was trying to save that tree and not ruin it. If we have to go back, we're going to lose that tree, which will break my heart, but maybe that's a better option because I hear the concerns. And I think the other thing that we wanted to mention, which wasn't mentioned, and maybe this is irrelevant, but it's not, is that we have 4 grown children. And that's the challenge. So the little house that we have now, they'll come and they'll sleep 4 in a room and nobody complains. But what we were trying to do was to make room for them and the grandchildren. We've got 2 grandchildren, but considering 4 kids, I think there were going to be more. So we were trying to make space. And we do understand, that there were rules, but the house is sitting on a property that's kind of funny. And we were trying to figure out how best to accommodate. So, we've heard some suggestions. I guess we can think about that. But we thought we did a pretty conservative job of trying to make a space for our big family on a lot that kind of looks like an arc. Yeah. But by the way, we do love the neighborhood.
Okay,
Anything else, Bob?
Did you want to say anything, Bob?
Well, one thing about the mature trees, I mean, obviously, I think, I'm not sure which side it is, west or north, between our house and Barbara's house, who spoke before. There's, I guess, about 15 feet of mature trees between the 2 lots, which obviously we want to maintain. I think some of it's our property and some of it's theirs. And also along the curve of the road, there's all mature trees that we also plan on keeping all of them. The only opening to that road pretty much will be the driveway itself, which is covered and existing.
Okay. All right, you want to just stay on? I think there was a follow-up, but we'll give you have to keep it tight, please. Follow-up.
I had 2 things. One is just a question.
All right, come up to the podium so we can record it.
And the other is to read the statement from Larry and Judy. I don't know why you would prefer to have a front yard variance and not the pyramid. I agree with, I believe Julie said, in this property, the north side bordering the property is a right-of-way. It's just basically a driveway and a walkway. And the west side, it's back at the corner. That's my property. There's no house there. I would much prefer the house be moved back and not in the front yard. And we talked about with Bob and Liz the possibility of perhaps rotating the house a little bit so that it follows the line of the existing house, which would make it further back at that point of the curve. So there would be more open yard. My personal thought is that there's a lot of opportunity for changes that would make it work better for all of us. So the other thing is
Okay.
2 neighbors who live
Well, you can submit those written comments that,
They're from someone else. They wanted us
Yes,
to
I
read
know,
them.
but they can be submitted. I don't know if we need to
I
hear
think
them.
they've been submitted, right? They just asked us to read them.
From Lawrence and Judith.
Yeah.
How long are they?
It's a page. It's very short. They're just basically saying they're sorry they're not here,
Okay.
but they only found out about it, and they're going to be here in a couple of weeks, and they were hoping to have either a postponement or at least a time for them to submit written comments, which I think is already going to happen. That was the thrust of their comments.
Yeah, whose is this? Who's the application? John. It seems to me that there is some room for perhaps discussion with neighbors at this point. How does the board feel about that? So that perhaps what we should do is adjourn and come back after you've had an opportunity to consider the suggestions by Julie and some of the comments from the neighbors and see whether there can be some modifications, being creative. Is that agreeable with the Shones?
Yeah.
Okay,
Does that necessarily delay the whole thing a lot?
not a lot,
Okay.
but it does put it back. I mean, there's no question.
If we do, because as the architect of the project and as the Showens have looked at their project, I think what majority is gonna find out is that we have put this, I have spent countless hours on this project. And I think what we're gonna find out is every move we make is gonna go in a direction that doesn't make it better for everybody.
Well, it sounds like you're just going to be multiplying variances.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what
So
all I'm
if we go
hearing. I mean, I'm interested in hearing what the community thinks, but all I'm hearing is that you're going to multiply variances. You're going to come in and you're asking now for really only 2. I hear people say 3, but that's not. It's 2, and I bet you it's going to be 4 or 5.
And I don't want the board to feel like we're coming back, or even that we're coming back. If we come back with close to the same thing with some modifications, there's a very good chance, not by want, obviously, you know, the Showens can talk with you as neighbors, myself, obviously wanting the best for the community, but less emotionally involved as you would be with your neighbors. Knowing the technicality of this, I feel like you're gonna find yourself in a position after talking that we might be at the same spot, and this was going to just create a month of.
There's
ask
no
you this.
question that there will
But I
be
wouldn't
variance requests. I
Yes,
mean, there's
yeah.
no question that
Yeah.
you're gonna come back with
So,
variance.
so let me ask you this. So, you know, right now, you could play a game of roulette.
Yeah.
And you could say, I'll take an adjournment and try and work something out and then come back either with some changes or stick to the plan you already have. Or you can stick to the plan you already have. We'll put it down for written submissions and for decision. You can have an opportunity to talk to the neighbors. And then if you decide that there's something that you're willing to change, then you can come back to us and ask us to open it up again for us to have yet another hearing.
But
The-
to
the thing
reopen, we
is-
have to unanimous vote of the board, which is a little bit tricky also. So,
We're gonna
Well, I
try,
think
if the
if
board-
they came back to us and said that they wanted to reopen so that they could show us new plans that they worked out with them, I doubt that there would be people on this board that would say no. I'm just offering you your options. I'm offering you your options.
well, I
If you
think,
say, no, I'd like to have a written submission date right now, you run the risk of people on this board saying no.
Yeah, well, I would want to talk with Mr. and Mrs. Schoen, but we might request an adjournment as suggested, just for that final exploration.
I would
Make
suggest
everybody
that
feel
that's the way we
comfortable.
go,
Would you
personally.
agree? Or would you want to talk in private?
But we have to make a
That's fine.
decision.
Which part? Do you want to adjourn and then discuss, or do you want to discuss now and?
I understood that we should adjourn and then we can come back with a.
Okay, that's the position we're
do our
gonna take.
best we can. We're
And-
gonna
Okay.
work
And we'll
in
get you back
direction,
on the
but-
schedule pretty quickly.
Okay, thank you so
So
much.
we have June 5th available?
That would be great. We'll take it as
Yes.
soon as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be
So-
great.
We'll be back in New York.
So I'm gonna move, did we hear everyone in the room? Anybody else wanted to speak? No?
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna move to hold this application open to June 5th.
Is there a
Second.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Redpen?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, adjourned till
Appreciate
June
it.
5th.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
moving
you.
to number 4 on the agenda. Application of Brandon Josephson and Sarah Church, 22 Bay Avenue, Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-5-3-39. Applicant requests relief for the following provisions of the Town Code for a new one-family dwelling. 1. Section 330-6, General Regulations that references Section 330-11, Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for 1. A principal front yard setback from 60 feet to 33.5 feet. That sounds familiar. 2. A principal rear yard setback from 70 feet to 44.1 feet. And 3. Total lot coverage from 20% to 27.8%. And 2. Section 330-84D Pyramid Law for a north sky plane encroachment of 2,672 cubic feet and a south sky plane encroachment of 3,015 cubic feet for a total encroachment of 5,687 cubic feet. In addition, applicant requests relief from 330-77G Placement of accessory building structures and uses in residence districts for a side yard setback from 10 feet to 5.7 feet for the location of a proposed generator on a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Okay, please introduce yourself. You're not an attorney, right? Let me swear you in. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, please state your name and address.
David Sherwood, 10 Crescent Street, Sag Harbor, New York.
Okay, David. And
Carl Benacasa, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York, for the applicant. Good evening.
okay, Carl or David.
So,
Who's,
obviously, I'm counsel for this. David's the architect on the project. We'll just go through the various points of relief. Now, one might look at this and think this is quite a bit of relief being requested. And certainly when I took this application in, that was in my head. But as you consider the context of the neighborhood it's in, the character of that neighborhood, the relief granted in that neighborhood, the existing conditions on the lot, it is our position that the relief requested is actually quite reasonable. The lot is 7,289 square feet, which is less than 10%, I'm sorry, less than 25% of what the minimum in the zoning district is, it being in the R40 zoning district. The proposed home is a modest home of 2,357 square feet over 2 floors. The relief requested is dimensional with respect to front, side, and rear, and then the pyramid relief, which we will get into. I'll turn first to the front yard relief. We're asking for relief of 26.5 feet to construct the dwelling 33.5 feet from Bay Avenue, when under the R40 zoning district, 60 feet is required. Again, and I'll be stating this refrain quite a lot today, the lot is incredibly burdened both by wetlands in the rear and by lot size. It's, again, 7,200 square feet when the zoning was designed for 40,000 square foot lots. And lot width. The minimum lot width on R40 is 100 feet. This is a 50-foot wide lot. And I think this board is pretty familiar with this area, Pine Neck and Noyak, and that's because so many of the lots developed unconventionally and are very undersized and non-conforming. I passed around a sheet that was compiled by one of our consultants on this. And as you can see, there are numerous, this is just in the immediate area, numerous amounts of relief granted, similar to what we're asking for today in the area over the years. Some as recently as a year ago, some as, or 2 years ago. The front yard setback, again, we're asking for 26.5 feet of relief to construct the home 33.5 feet off of Bay Avenue. I would note that 28 Bay Avenue, which is 2 houses down, received a variance to construct the home 20 feet from Bay Avenue. 20 Bay Avenue, which is just next door, 19 feet from Bay Avenue. And the 2 down, I think it's 24 Bay Avenue, 26 feet. So the character of the neighborhood is very much in line with the proposed front yard setback. In fact, this would be one of the further setback homes on that street. We're asking for relief of 25.9 feet to construct a dwelling to the rear yard setback. The wetlands would still be roughly 106, 108 feet from this, and we are in process with the Conservation Board with respect to this approval as well.
Do you need a permit or it's non-jurisdiction?
It's within jurisdiction,
Okay.
within the 200 feet.
So you need a permit.
We would need a wetlands permit, yes, and that's in process. The, so the rear yard setback now is 50.4 feet. So we're only asking for a 6.3 foot increase in, or decrease in setback from what's existing as a pre-existing lot. 6.3 when 70 is required, that's less than 10%, would be considered a minor variance if that were the only relief we were requesting. As far as building lot coverage, again, given the size and constraints of the lot, this generally modest-sized home does require relief from the lot coverage, which is 20% under the R40 zoning district. We're asking for 27.8% or 7.8% relief. There are numerous examples of similar relief granted around the neighborhood. 15 Bay Avenue received lot coverage relief from 23.6%. 17 Dogwood, which is a similar sized lot in the neighborhood, received relief for to 7.3% of relief for lot coverage. And 30 Walnut, again, similar in the area, 6.42% relief. So the lot coverage relief being requested is in line with relief granted in this neighborhood and is in line with existing neighborhood conditions.
What's the lot coverage, Greg?
Sorry,
What's the lot coverage percentage?
we're asking for relief of 7.8%, so 27.8.
Is it on the survey?
I had 22% for some reason. I don't know where I got that.
We didn't advertise it for that, that's why it stopped me. I don't care, you know, it could be any other relief necessary, I just was looking for the numbers. Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Existing total lot coverage.
Yeah, but
Proposed total.
27.8 at the bottom.
Gotcha,
There it
I see
is.
it. Thank you.
The generator, we're asking for a relief of 4.3 feet at a 10-foot setback, when 10 foot is required at 5.7 feet setback. That's from the northern boundary line. I would note, in the building department's review, they noted that the existing house has side yards of 9 and 5 feet. So again, we're in line with the existing structure of the home, working within the existing conditions and the constraints on the lot. We do believe that to be a reasonable setback for the generator. Finally, the largest relief requested is the pyramid, and I think that's probably what we're going to be focusing on today. The total relief requested for pyramid is 5,687 cubic feet. Knowing this board's position with respect to pyramid, that is a high number. We will admit that. But when you consider a few things, we believe that relief to be in line with the 5-part test and the overarching standard regarding the benefit to the neighbor outweighing the detriment to the community. Most notably, and is the character of the neighborhood that was set both by pre-existing nonconformity and by decisions of this board. In 2023, this board granted 5,373 cubic feet of pyramid relief to a home just around the block at 188 Noyak Avenue. That relief was granted on a lot which was wider, approximately 12 feet wider than the current lot. And the pyramid relief here is basically required due to the narrow nature of this lot. So on a lot that was better suited for development and was actually a vacant lot, as opposed to this, which has that pre-existing footprint, the relief was granted in the amount of 5,373 cubic feet, in line with the relief we're requesting today. About a year ago, in April of 2024, this board granted 3,871 cubic feet of pyramid relief for a lot at 21 Dogwood Street, again, just around the corner. In making that determination, the board specifically held a unanimous decision a year ago that the premises is narrow and non-conforming, and as modified, the proposed encroachment is consistent with the character of the neighborhood. That was the findings of this board in April of 2024. Unanimous decision. What I would note, which mitigates to a degree this pyramid request, is that there is existing pyramid encroachment of just about 1,100 square feet. So going off of what exists.
You mean cubic.
Did I say square feet?
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me. So going off of what exists, that is factored into, or it should not factored into that 5,687 cubic feet. So really the relief we're requesting over what the pre-existing non-conforming relief to which this lot is entitled is only about 4,500 cubic feet of relief.
Are you demolishing the existing house?
Yes, it would.
So then it doesn't exist anymore. that pyramid.
Well, it exists right now, and the,
Correct.
yeah.
But the demolition sort of expunges
Yeah,
the
it
relief.
erases that.
But I take your
Demolition
point.
does not remove
Yes, it
non-conformities.
does.
No, it,
For the pyramid,
Our
it
attorney
does,
has
'cause
told
it's
us
gone.
that in the past.
Because the pyramid's
but it is
gone.
something,
If you were doing an addition, right? If you were doing an addition.
You could tag
And the
on.
building department said, oh, you need 5,000 cubic feet, you would say, well, 1,000 of it already exists. But if you're demolishing that, it's gone.
But when you're talking about what the character of the neighborhood and the existing condition, this lot exists with 1,100
I
cubic
mean, that's a
feet.
different point and a
Yeah,
fair
it's-
point, and
that's
we'll take
right.
it on
Point I'm
board.
trying to make.
We get it.
Well, all right, but not that, we should
Not that it
consider it only
reduces-
4,600
Imperfectly
square.
made.
It's perfectly made, but you
Very
get the
imperfect,
gist.
very imperfectly made.
I guess on the character prom, you always have to make it worse for me.
I want to keep you on your toes.
So I think the gist of my argument with respect to the pre-existing non-conforming relief would probably be better characterized under the character of the neighborhood. But it's still something this board should fairly consider.
To the extent of 1,100 cubic
To the
feet.
extent of 1,100 square feet. When,
So it doesn't take into account the 4,500 extra you're looking for.
no, but about a year ago, this board granted, or I should say 2 years ago, September of '23, 5,300 across the street, or not across the street, down the block, around.
And
the
that's
block.
the first precedent you mentioned?
Yes, that's
and
at
so-
188 Noyak Ave.
One part of that argument I did not understand, Carl, is that you are saying it was more relief on a larger piece of property.
That's right.
And for me, that cuts not in favor of this structure, because I think, I can tell you, having driven by, part of what concerns me about the extent of this pyramid relief is that it looks like it's just going to be a very large structure on a very small piece of property. And so that argument doesn't hold much water
The
for
point
me.
the point of the argument is that they had more room to work within permitted zoning
Correct.
and still got relief. We are more constrained.
Yeah. I also wasn't here then. but
Which one was
I
that?
take your word for it.
That was 188 Noyak Ave.
What's the name on it? Because you put these by name.
Richard Flood. It's number, on that.
It's right here.
All right.
In any case, I think you've anticipated the concern of the board, but I'll speak for myself. This is a lot of relief on a very small piece of property in a neighborhood that has a lot of constraints, and from what I saw driving around today, a very mixed set of residences, some of which are quite small, and who knows, could appear here someday, I don't know, but they aren't right now, and some of which clearly have been expanded. So it's a real mixed bag, it's not a singular character from what I saw.
But a home of this size and to this degree is not out of character with the neighborhood.
What's the square footage of the home?
2,500 square feet. It's not that big a house. It's 2,357 actually.
2357 total,
Total. Yeah, first and
not like,
second floor.
not footprint.
No, total, first and second floor. It's 1,100, it's 1,346 on the first floor and just over 1,000 on the second.
What are the ceiling heights? Both 8 feet.
We-
So how are you coming in?
Concessions were made through the process to bring this down in accordance
see.
with what you prefer.
And to add to that, the second floor, the plate height on the second floor starts at 5 feet and the roof goes up from there. And only where we have dormers do we go up to 8 so that we get a proper window or door in that wall. So we anticipated, the concern, and so we brought it from a 9-foot ceiling to an 8-foot ceiling and then lowered the second floor plate. And also in doing that, trying to keep sort of the cottage aesthetic of the house so that it would stay.
So I'm uncomfortable with the relief that you're asking, and I appreciate everything you said and characteristically laid out nicely. I would feel better, I noted, I would feel better if you could compress the width of the structure a bit, which would give you some relief from the pyramid relief, I think. And coming closer to the road, there's houses on either side are much closer to the road than you are. And I think that is also more in character with the neighborhood than the height and the mass. I share Julie's concern about the sort of, these are really tiny cottagey locations, right?
You want the home closer to the road?
We can't do that. We're locked in with the
Oh,
septic.
with septic,
footprint.
yeah.
And we're minimum everywhere, so there's no give on the front.
Because of the septic.
Well, you're showing a drain field, right?
Yes.
Why are you showing a drain field? Because you have height to water?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, height to water table, okay. And you can't put that any closer on the side?
I mean, we could talk to the engineer, but this is what we came up with after a lot
Talk to
of
the
pushing.
engineer would be a really good idea. And tell them you gotta locate the drain field, in the side yard setback area. And if you had to, some of that I've seen, in other locations where you put cement over it and the health department will let you park on it. So, I think
So-
you got.
This is our parking.
Please be more creative in that side of your application and more forgiving on the concerns that I think you're hearing from us.
Well,
Just-
Helen
just to
wanted
be
to, all right, go
I'd
ahead.
just like to get
Sure.
Kevin's clarity. So you're asking us to relocate the home in which direction?
No, just
Closer to the street. Go ahead,
Closer
Susan.
to the street,
narrow it and bring it forward.
bring it forward.
Is that correct?
And if you can,
Narrow it.
you got a narrow lot with a house that's almost 31 or 32 feet wide
So
on a 50-foot wide lot. So it's,
and what would bring it closer to? Increase the rear yard setback? Is that what you were concerned about?
or
Decrease the
Or-
front yard setback. In other words, push it closer to the street. I
So
mean,
increase the relief for the front yard.
yes, because I also went to see it, and the houses on either side are really much closer to the street than even what you're proposing.
Saying make it narrower and longer,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
Narrower and
making the
longer.
house a little narrower and make it longer so you can get the square footage, but bring it closer to the front.
And reduce the pyramid substantially.
So, in other words, make it narrower, longer, retain the square footage, but.
To the extent you can,
If you
yeah,
can.
but
Or if you had to really decide what you could do with that, that'd be okay too, so that you reduce all the nonconformities some.
But the pyramid relief is,
It wouldn't impact the pyramid, except the
wouldn't-
side coming in. Yeah.
the side coming in would
Yeah.
impact the pyramid.
Or make
but
it
not
28
by a
feet.
lot.
And the existing house, for anyone that's been there, is, further back than the proposed house, so,
Yes, no, we
Yes.
get that, we
Yeah.
got that, yes, for sure.
And I don't know that we can, I'll talk to the engineer, but I
Okay,
don't
but I think what you're hearing, and I'm gonna let Helen, is that the pyramid relief is too much. I have no problem with the front yard relief. I have no problem with the lot coverage. I have a problem with the pyramid relief. And, you need 4 votes, so I'm just suggesting that.
Yeah, we appreciate the
Yeah.
discussion. I would,
Helen, before you go on, Helen, did you want to say something?
I agree with Julie, you, and Kevin, that this pyramid relief is too much. And I would ask Carl, as we have mentioned on previous occasions, that when he quotes a particular address that it got, of course, it always gets more. He never quotes something that gets less. I would like to have seen that decision.
advocate.
I like to be able to lawyer. I like to see what's distinguishing between that case and this case. And not to just say, on so-and-so street, they got 12 million cubic feet, because
We
that.
did submit like a,
submitted this.
submitted like a
chart, but it doesn't distinguish, on what basis, the variance was granted, like, you said a little bit about width and stuff like that, but we have to have a little bit more information.
I can give you the decisions if you'd like.
Yeah, that's what I'd like.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
But even given
The
that,
overarching concern with those, that's fine. But the overarching idea of those was that in this neighborhood, these similarly situated lots, and on the map, you will see the lot sizes are comparable. We're given this sort of relief. If you're looking for specific elements that this lot shares or doesn't share with them, I don't think there's gonna be much to provide, but I will do a write-up of each, if that makes it.
okay, that would be helpful. But I also agree with Julie, in driving around the neighborhood, it's not like everybody is like 2 stories, huge homes. I mean, there's some, but to me, they're modest 2-story homes.
very
They're
much
not,
so.
they're not like, and at least the ones on that particular street, they seem to have wider lots, and they don't seem to be appearance of massiveness that this might appear to be.
The lots are similar in width to this one.
I don't know, it seemed a
And
little
again,
larger to
this
me.
is, I don't think you can characterize this as a massive home. at 2,300
For that piece of property, I think that's part of what
Yeah,
we're
it's not a
struggling
There are
massive
with.
home,
similarly
Carl, in that
sized
sense.
homes.
Yeah, no, but I think it's a small lot.
I do have letters from the neighbors, the immediately adjacent neighbors, both in support. I passed one around.
Right.
From both or one? Both, okay.
Okay.
One is with you. The other one I have, we're going to submit it to Candace next week. And both express the same level of
Say something?
unbridled support.
Okay, Helen,
Yes.
go ahead.
There was one other thing that Carl said that's disturbing to me, not anybody else maybe.
Helen, last thing I want to do is disturb you, Helen.
If I
Thank
could
you,
just underscore
Paul.
one last.
Wait,
go ahead.
she said-
Go ahead.
Let her finish.
You say that a house that's 2,500 square feet or thereabouts is a modest house. The people who live in less than 2,500 square feet houses, they may differ from your opinion. So that's putting a value on a number. I think I would feel happier if you could just say the number without saying it's
Okay.
a small house or a modest. The word modest, I think you use the word modest too often to make me happy, Carl.
Okay, all
It's
right.
a modest 2,300 square feet.
Okay. Let me see if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on the application of 22 Bay Avenue. Is there anybody on Zoom who wishes to be heard on 22 Bay Avenue?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, so,
Susan, if I could just make one point of clarification.
okay, go ahead.
It's just, I'm uncomfortable with the coverage, but if I could find room to be more forgiving on the coverage if the effort was made for the pyramid relief reduction. With meaningful effort.
You mean a significant reduction,
Thank you.
right?
Right? So,
Yes.
so
Not 5
trying to
cubic
give
feet.
direction so everybody walks out with a little clarity. Thank
We're
you.
not looking for a 10 cubic foot reduction. We
Oh,
understand
Where are you guys with the conservation board?
that we're still waiting to be counted.
Okay, I mean, you might,
There have been discussions with Marty.
I'm just saying, you,
Expressed unofficially that he is comfortable with this design. As you can see, it's the closest structure is about 108 feet going to the home, to the wetlands, but nothing formal.
All right.
you know that they won't render a decision, so you have conditional resolution of approval, so.
From the wetlands. Yeah.
So it sounds like we're gonna adjourn this. Will you do some work, correct?
Yes, I guess we'll consider redesigning the interior of the home or the home itself to limit the relief for pyramid. That,
Pyramid seems to be the biggest concern.
Yeah,
I
all the
mean,
rest is fine.
All the rest is more.
the
I'm
rest is
also
fine.
comfortable with the rest. I think the pyramid is.
It's the pyramid
is, for
relief
me,
that's
the
out of
big-
control.
Well, and if they, not out of control, if they secure a conditional resolution of approval, that some of the setbacks will be eliminated, because the conservation board permit, I think, have SEER setbacks.
Yeah.
we'll get
yeah,
forgiven on some of
50%.
those setbacks.
50% reduction, yeah. Okay, so, okay, let's try to be creative, okay?
So when do you think you can, Candace, can you help us figure out when
That's a David
we
question
can
and a
get these
Candace
guys
question.
back?
As soon as you can get us on the calendar, we'll.
Well, we have to wait for the, do we wait for the conservation board or not?
It's in their best, it's up to them, it's in their best, I mean, you can't render a decision, but if they don't think the conservation board's gonna care about changes to the application, then they can put it in where they want.
But that may also modify our setbacks.
You know, because you don't have anything from Marty, I
We
mean.
can close the hearing and hold the decision until there's the wetlands?
No, we want to
No.
adjourn this because we want you to
No,
reconsider,
no, I'm saying ultimately.
ultimately.
Oh.
We would, is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I think what I'm saying is, before you get too far in the conservation board and they approve something, if you're gonna make changes, and this board, and that's acceptable to this board, at least in some type of discussion, because otherwise you're gonna find yourself then going back to the conservation
I
board.
think that makes sense.
I don't, right?
So hold off.
I could be wrong about that.
So
I'm not
hold
trying
off
to-
with conservation, make your changes, come back to
Well, I-
us.
I'm just saying, he said he's gonna make some changes, I think this board would want, that's up to you.
So we will, if I could suggest, we would adjourn this hearing and then close it, and we could track the decision until the planning board.
That's fine. I was just-
Adjourn this and close
at the next time, assuming we redesign in a way that you're happy with, we could close the hearing and then track the decision with the Conservation Board.
Okay.
Okay, but
So-
it may affect your setbacks if the Conservation Board gives you the permit.
The only thing it'll do is you would not have
Make
to
it
grant
easier.
certain relief.
It would make it easier. Okay, just so that you understand. Okay.
Susan,
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Helen.
why do we need to close the hearing? Why
We're
can't we
not
just?
closing,
we're
we're
not.
not.
We're
We're
not.
having an adjournment.
Okay,
We're
thank you.
adjourning, we're not
All right,
closing.
That's
So-
an eventuality in the future.
So,
Just a modest adjournment.
so,
Candace, what do you suggest?
7-3?
You have
You
seven
said
or
it was
eight.
open.
7 or 8, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've got nothing to do the night before July 4th.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll be here anyway. Are you okay with
Well,
that?
it's just before a holiday. We don't want to overload the
yes,
agenda.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I can do this without David, but yeah, I'll be here anyway on July 3rd.
Is 6-5 closed now?
I mean, we have to have a meaningful meeting on 7-3
okay,
because we
so
don't
let's
have
do
to adjourn.
7-3.
I'm gonna say 7-3 because Carl, some of the 7 numbers that I have listed, they might be some of your senior seconds.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll
so
be here anyway.
Yeah, so
I'm
we'll do
going to
7-3.
move to adjourn this matter until 7:03.
Second.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Redpen.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Chair votes aye. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
Okay, number 5 on the agenda. Application of permanent of Bridgehampton 360 LLC. Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-83-1-22.1 and 23.5. Applicant requests relief from Town Code Section 330-95, Schedule of Off-Street Parking Space Requirements for Non-Residential Uses to allow a total of 1,247 parking spaces, where 1,253 parking spaces are required in connection with 2 lots located in the SCB zoning district, and any other relief necessary.
Jurisdiction?
Okay, are any of you attorneys? Okay, then let me swear in the other 2, and then you can introduce yourselves and state your address. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
I do.
Okay, please state your names separately and your addresses.
Ethan Chakosky, I'm with TPD Engineering. We're located at 275 Broad Hollow Road in Melville, New York. SCHUKOSKE.
AOSKE?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, Alex Holloman from Bowler Engineering. Our address is 275 Broad Hollow Road, Melville, New York.
Okay.
Your last name again?
Holloman, Holleman.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the
Can you
board.
please introduce yourself?
For the applicant, Brian Kennedy. I'm a partner with Forcelli Deegan Tirana. Office is at 100 Motor Parkway, Hauppauge, New York. We are here on behalf of the applicant. Some of you may be aware of the fact that Target, who is here today seeking to occupy the former Kmart site at the Bridgehampton Commons Shopping Center. As part of that application, they seek to occupy the entire 91,000 square foot space that exists at the site. They also intend to do significant facade upgrades, parking lot upgrades, loading dock upgrades, all of which we have been before the planning board several times on. We secured that relief on February 23rd of this year. We've also appeared before the Architectural Review Board and secured their approval. That was in February. I don't know the exact date, but it was early February. The parking lot improvements that are proposed include a large walkway leading up to the front of the building. There'll be the addition of 2 cart corrals to keep carts in at the site. Also, 10 parking stalls at the front of the parking lot will be converted into drive-up stalls for online pickup. Many of you, I'm sure, utilize that at Targets or other comparable stores. What will result because of the addition of those cart corrals and drive-up stalls is a reduction in 6 parking stalls. stalls. Right now, the existing parking lot has 253 stalls. After the site redesign, there'll be 1,247 stalls. My opinion is that's a de minimis loss. There's no other way to achieve these goals, but nonetheless, Target has retained Mr. Shakowski. He performed a parking analysis on the site. I'm going to ask him to speak to you guys briefly about the results of that finding.
Sure. So I just want to first describe the change a little bit, and it was described briefly by Mr. Kennedy, but I want to explain the reasoning here. First is the cart corrals. Those are somewhat obvious, but they obviously provide a space for carts to go. That helps the circulation and the parking in the parking lot because you have less errant carts throughout the parking lot.
And there aren't any right now, is that the assumption?
There are two existing, which are insufficient to serve the site.
Okay.
So this is in addition to those two.
Exactly. In addition to those two. The other reason for the reduction is the drive-up parking stalls. So the drive-up parking stalls, I'm sure may be familiar. You see them on the rise, especially since COVID, and especially as everything is done on an app and mobilely now. The reason we have to reduce the number of stalls due to those is we're proposing some aisles in between each one of the stalls. That's just for the safety of the team members of Target, so they can go in there and deliver the orders to the mobile pickup stalls. So those also, in addition, they help. They have a higher turnover rate than the other stalls in the parking lot. So they're more efficient in that way. Target's research shows that they turn over in 3 minutes or less. That opposed to the other parking stalls, which obviously you have to find a spot, park, go in, you probably walk around the store. It's Target. That takes 20 minutes to an hour on average. So comparing the turnover of those stalls to the turnover of a typical stall, and using that 20-minute dwell time versus a 5-minute dwell time for a mobile pickup stall, we calculated on average 102 additional vehicles per hour could be serviced on the site. So I just point that out to just say that these improvements are really aimed at making the parking lot more efficient. That said, we did do a parking study at the site. The parking study was done over the winter. So when studies are done over the winter in Southampton, we want to be very careful about that for obvious reasons. It's a very seasonal location. To account for that, we did our study a few days before Christmas. We did the Saturday.
It was already closed at that point.
The Kmart was closed at that point. So we did our study a few days before Christmas to just get the highest possible demand at the shopping center. As traffic engineers, we typically avoid that time. We want to get more of an average or even the seasonal average in the summer. So we studied the site a few days before Christmas. At that time, the total shopping center was about 53% occupied, which makes sense with the fact
Are you
that
talking
Kmart,
about just in front of the old
the
Kmart?
entire,
Or are you talking about the King Culinary as
we
well?
looked at the whole thing.
Okay,
looked
so
at the
it
whole
was
thing.
both sides,
Yeah.
the east and the west.
The east and the west.
Okay.
We looked at the whole thing. So in order to account for the Target, which obviously is going to be taking over that space, we looked at a couple of different things. We looked at ITE, that's the Institute of Transportation Engineers. They publish data on parking demand, and that's how we calculate parking demand for any given use. We calculated the demand for the Target and added that to the observed demand. The other thing we looked at is the parking demand rate. So it's the rate for occupied space in the shopping center when we did our count. That was slightly higher, so we ended up using that over the ITE rates just to be a little more conservative. So when we looked at a future projection, with the observed demand a few days before Christmas and the Target occupied, we calculated that the total shopping center would be about 77% occupied. So that obviously leaves some reserve capacity.
That's at Christmas time,
That would be at Christmas time.
right, in the winter. Okay.
Correct. We think that's a fair comparison to the seasonal, adjustment, given the summer, given the data that we have.
Very difficult because of the seasonality of this whole thing. Very difficult to project because, I mean, if you just look at the traffic on the roads since December, crazy new.
But it's for parking. It's not for new use.
No, I
you know.
understand, but
It's
this
existed,
is.
and there won't
No, and
be
I'm
new
not
traffic
suggesting there's
to
a
the
better way to
site.
do it because I don't think there is. There's a limitation. I had a question for you because there currently exists 4 pickup spaces outside of Walgreens and 4 pickup spaces around the corner from the building that's closer to the bird shop and whatever. Never used. No, never used, as far as I can tell.
I don't know how, I'll just say that they were occupied at times during our count, but I'll also.
Because people are parking in them, because they know they're never used, so they're just going in, that's close
That
to
may
the
be
building.
the
I'm
case. That may be the
Yeah.
case, but neither of those stores have the online presence that
I
Target
understand,
has.
but my
or the
question
app-
is, there are 8 that exist.
For in front of the
Other stores.
Well, not that far. I mean, the one by Walgreens is not that far. The one around the corner is.
Sure.
All right, but I have to swear you in order for you to comment.
This is Allison Mathern. She's a senior director of real estate with Target Corporation.
Okay. Let me swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
It's Allison Mathern.
Yeah, go to the podium.
Creeping up with them. Allison Mathern, address is 1000 Nicollet Mall, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay.
To answer your question about the ones that are already there, I think there were a couple that were in front of the former Kmart space. Those are where we're putting the Target pickup spaces, and anything else that's there is for other tenants in the shopping center. It's not part of our lease premises.
I understand,
So-
but I'm just saying that doesn't get, I'm not saying that Target won't get used, but I'm just saying these are like spaces that are not being used. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be,
Applicants come to us and ask for these spaces. I mean, this is
I know.
the retail model now, so.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
just
but-
saying there was 8 spaces and there's hardly
Can I-
ever
I'd like
anybody
the
there.
Planning boards looked at all this stuff here. When you calculate it, this is actually a 0.01% parking variance. If you actually do the calculation
It's very small.
and carry the decimals out, it comes to basically 100% in compliance. The planning board, shopping center zoning parking is completely different. So I want this board to understand that, as opposed to when you're looking at 2 or 3 uses and we're building new shopping center. We've been dealing with this property for decades now. So the calculations are different and they're always excessive, to be quite honest. I would probably say at best, because Claire and I have go to these sites during various peak times because we deal with the site, 75%, you're right, will be the maximum there. The planning board has 97 land bank parking spaces for this site already. They don't want to open that. They just don't. They just don't need it. The citizens don't want all the extra parking there. So in doing this, what they did suggest was, because we get these updated every now and again with these new uses or a new use that comes in, some type of parking analysis that seems to consistently show 75% at its peak time and stuff like that. So we know that the site's not being fully used, and it's also a complete shared parking situation. So you're not
It
required
is.
to park in front
It
of the
is.
store. To that point, you have like a Dunkin' Donuts in that shopping center. So, their time periods are more during the day, not being used so much at night. So we look at all this stuff and then decided that opening the land bank parking wouldn't be necessary. So we sort of directed them here and then did some other approvals in the process to try to keep the thing moving So I don't think from a planning.
It's not an
standpoint-
extraordinary request, that's for sure.
Six
But it
parking
has, but
spaces.
just to your point, Susan, the planning board and the applicants will say this, had a very robust discussion with the planning board about the drop-off, the pickup. Candace filled in for that particular meeting, so she could attest to this. They had a very robust discussion.
And we've
because
got your sort of preliminary report here, the conference report, right? The pre-submission
And they
conference report.
suggested that a parking analysis be, used to investigate if there's any parking issues that we were not aware of.
Yeah.
Our experience has shown that there hasn't been. But the other side of it is, if one does become an issue, that's why we have almost 100 spaces that we can open them up at the planning board's discretion if they decide that it's necessary.
Well, a lot of people park their trucks there. There's a lot of stuff there that has to be cleaned up, obviously. And if I may just suggest that I think Target is going to be a very attractive store for that area. So I'm not sure the 75% is going to hold, because I think it will draw a lot of people to Target's credit. I mean, but I'm just saying, if we have a problem, you said you have some land bank stuff. Right?
Kmart was incredibly popular 13 years ago.
Yeah,
and
13 years
honestly,
ago, but.
But hold on. 13 years ago, when it was at the height of the season, everybody going and buying all the furniture for their share house, and that parking lot was never full.
No, and we
Never full.
in the last iteration when it was TJ Maxx or Marshalls or whatever it was, we did all this work in the back. I mean, there was so the planning board is very well aware of this site. So I think that we've addressed the parking from planning's perspective. Is all I'm trying to say.
Okay, just
So from planning's perspective, giving
is
this
not
variance as to 6
Would not be-
spaces would not be a problem?
No.
That's all I need
I
to
don't
hear.
see it as a problem either, but I just want to ask the questions and make sure that we're all aware of the fact that it could get busy there.
I appreciate that, and I think
have
Ms.
you-
Mathern
are there
hopes so.
Are there other stores there that have indicated any concern? I mean, usually we ask, is there a neighbor who has,
We have not spoken, I have not spoken with any of the other tenants. We have been in constant communication with the property owner, Kimco Realty. I suspect that Mr. Donnie Lowe is probably online. He's been present at every other meeting, has been fully supportive of this application at all stages.
Okay, well, I would assume that they would be. I'm just talking about the other tenants in the shopping area.
I would
whether-
suspect they would be supportive as well.
So,
More foot traffic.
I hope so.
No, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
unused buildings in a shopping center is
Not a
generally
not a good look. It's not a good look.
We could get them filled up.
All right. Is there any other questions from this board?
Thank you.
Are there anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter? Thank you for waiting so long. I appreciate it. Is there anybody else? Is there anybody online who wishes to, or on Zoom, who wishes to be heard on the matter of the 2102 and 2044 Montauk Highway?
No one has their hand up, so
No one does?
no one.
Okay. All right. So this is mine. So I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm going to keep it open for written comments until May 27th with a decision on June 5th.
Second.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Reppin.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Have a great evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Number 6 on the agenda, application of A. Robbins Valentine Jr. and Stephanie B. Valentine, 4 East End Avenue, East Quogue, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-316-1-27. Applicant requests relief from Town Code Section 330-83A4 yards to allow a deck. If you wait for me to finish, you're going to be here forever. Come on. To allow a deck constructed higher than 1 foot above ground level without the benefit of a building permit to remain in the required front yard for the principal dwelling building on a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction.
Thank you for waiting so long. I appreciate your patience. Are you attorneys? No. Then let me swear you in. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, please individually state your name and address.
Stephanie B. Valentine. We're at 13 Corbett Court.
Okay, thank you.
Robin Valentine, 13 Corbett Court, East Quogue.
Okay, so who wants to talk first? All right, Robin.
We submitted all the paperwork for front deck, which is an extended front stoop, and it's now 16 inches long. Huh?
Is it high or long?
No, I guess they said it was over 12 inches high.
High, yeah.
But it didn't seem to be, but maybe it is a few.
Is the deck on top of, is there a concrete stoop and the deck is now on top of the stoop? Is that what you
No,
did?
if you can see that.
I was there today. I was just curious. When you mentioned stoop, I just wondered if it was a wooden skin on top of the cement and you just expanded it. I was just trying to understand what you
No, it
did.
was just expanded, what was rebuilt.
Right.
They just rebuilt
Sort
the
of-
whole thing. It wasn't on a slab, it was on a facing board along the house, and then came out, it's all on a frame.
Okay. Yeah, it's like 2 steps and then the landing, right?
Right.
Yeah. And it's about 18 inches off the ground or something like that.
Yeah,
So
about-
we're talking about effectively a 6-inch
Variance.
variance in height.
And this is the landing and steps on the East End Avenue side?
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about? I just want to make
East
sure.
End Avenue, yes.
On the East End Avenue side, that's your front yard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kevin, this is
This is
yours.
mine. I drove by, I looked around the community. I don't see any real issue here. And I'd be happy to hear from my colleagues.
John?
No,
No issue.
You know, it's a very modest request, and I'm so sorry you had to wait this long.
Yeah, we should have brought
present
you
it.
up
Yes,
earlier.
next time, we'll be a little bit smart about that.
Hopefully there's no next time.
No, well, when you.
Your new house has.
Your new house, yeah. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter? Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to be heard?
No one.
Okay, Kevin?
I'm going to suggest we close, this is a motion to close the hearing for written comments on close of business 5/27 and a decision on June 5.
Second.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Redmond?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
Okay,
You too.
thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Good day. Okay, number 9 on the agenda, application of Nina Wotis, 11 June Avenue, Flanders, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-148-3-23.
How are you guys?
Candace already got these? John Redding?
So you have been here
That'd be
before. I
fine.
think I've sworn you both in. So just for the record, state your names again, please.
Sorry.
Okay, so what's new?
Pyramid. Huge sticking point, we made a meaningful reduction on the pyramid. So there was no other issue with the setbacks.
Okay, so tell us what the pyramid is.
The pyramid now.
was almost 500. Now it's 3,200.
Okay, so do you have, okay, I just want to look at my notes here.
Only everything else.
I think there was a small lot coverage relief
Yes.
of 1%,
Yes,
something like
it
a
was
1%.
21 instead of 20, I think.
Right, and how did you arrive at the pyramid relief?
But the roof line is different. Changed the roof line.
Okay, so you went from a request of,
5.
how much was it originally?
We went down to 32.
3,200?
It's down from 50.
Yeah, 547.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't remember there being any other concerns with the application. Yeah, it was a small slight coverage area, but that was, and that stays the same, right? There's been no reduction in that. Okay,
Yeah, all the setbacks were within the.
okay. And the ceiling heights, did they change? So, So 8-foot ceiling heights, and you redid the, whose is this, John?
That's me.
Yeah, so what do you
Oh.
have any questions?
I think looking at it, it's pretty fitting for the area at that point. I have no problems with this, at the new design.
And
Yeah,
does
that was,
anybody
that
look?
was the ask, right? When we
Yes.
We came in March. and-
He just gave it to me tonight.
Yeah, all right, so these need to be reviewed by the building department?
Yep.
Okay, so, you
But I
know,
was smart anyway.
so, you know, we will ask them to do that before, obviously, we make our decision. But we do have a period of time in which they can do. Can they meet that, do you, if we were to do the written submissions and stuff like, okay.
Whose name's on the house sheet, if you don't mind me asking? All the respective signs.
I think it was Garehauser. Yeah, Garehauser.
Okay. Any questions on the board?
No.
Is anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter? Anybody on Zoom?
No one.
Okay, John, this is yours.
So if we close it to written comments to the 27th, we still have to wait for the building department, right?
Yeah, you could put it on for decision for 6/5, but I if I have it written and I have heard from the building department, you'll get 6/5, otherwise you'll get it 7.
The decision on
7.
6/5.
Okay.
If so, if it doesn't, yeah,
Right.
hopefully 6/5.
Right.
We have a lot of decisions coming up on 6/5, but it'll be 6/5 or probably 7.
Second.
Mr. Redmond.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you very much for your efforts. We really appreciate
Should
that.
we just check back or we'll get notification?
Check with Candace.
Thank you. Candace on your front.
Take care.
Yeah. She's everybody's
She's a
friend,
good
trust
friend to
me.
have.
You certainly don't want her to be your enemy.
Okay, number 11 on the agenda, the application of Mark Smith and Heather Cole, 23 West Tiana Road, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-255-1-30.
Peter, are they on Zoom?
There's a Ryan T. Kessler.
No, he's for Fitterman. Is there anybody, is Mark Smith or Heather Cole on there?
AMP Zoom 1 has their hand up. I'll bring them on.
Okay.
No, I didn't want to. I don't remember anything.
Board?
Hi.
Hello.
Are you an
Hi.
attorney?
No, I'm an architect.
Okay, let me swear you in. You
Sure.
swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please state your name and address.
Sure. Anthony Portillo, AMP Architecture, 10200 Main Road, Mattatuck, New York, 11952.
Okay, do you know it?
Portello.
Anthony, just put your last name for me.
Sure, it's P as in Paul, O-R, T as in Tom, I-L-L-O.
I had Cortello. Okay, Anthony,
Portillo.
tell us about this application and where we're at on it.
Sure, but I don't know if the board recalls. Again, thank you for this evening and your time. The board, we did meet on this about 18 months ago, and at that time we did not have approval from Conservation Board, and the board didn't seem to have any issues with the application. I can go over that again. But we do now have approval from Conservation Board, and that was the request from the board to come back after the approval was received. Just to sort of recall, the relief request is for Pyramid. We are proposing an addition at the rear of the home that is above basically there's an existing deck there, and the idea is to add a family room with a rooftop deck above. That structure does pierce the pyramid line. We did provide a diagram of homes that are in the area and the lots, and showed that it's pretty common due to sort of these narrow, long lots that the homes are close to the side yard and have the same characteristics of being obstructing the pyramid line. The current property of the current home actually on the side that the same side that we're having the new obstruction or the new relief, the home does currently pierce that line as well. The difference is that the addition that we're requesting is more of a square shape, where the piercing of the existing is more of an angled. It's the roof that's doing that. So the part that we're adding is a flat roof, with the deck on top.
I have some notes here that say that you needed to revise the survey to show the flood zone line. And I don't have in my folder here the Conservation Board permit. Candace, do we have that?
It was actually approved this morning.
Oh, all right, then.
My office.
Then we don't have it.
I believe. Sorry.
Okay, but we need to obviously get that.
Yeah, sure. Actually, Darcy from my office did email to Candace
it's too late for us to look at that. So I assume that we'll get that
understand.
Subsequently. The other thing I had was 2 sheds, only 1 approved. What was the story on that?
The existing sheds on the property.
Yeah. It says 2 sheds, only 1 approved, question mark. So that's it's been so long, I'm just wondering if that was.
Sure.
Katie, do you have anything on that?
No, I don't have my notes from this.
Okay.
So, the one shed, I'm not sure about the 2 sheds, only 1 approved. I don't recall that from our conversation. There isn't a request for relief on that. But we did receive approval for the proposed work and the existing structures on the property from conservation. Is there a zoning issue with one of the sheds?
Does your Conservation Board permit include a shed?
I have it right here.
Is there a shed on the survey or multiple sheds on the survey?
There are 2 sheds on the survey and our plot plan, yes.
Okay, do they both have certificates of compliance?
That's a question I would have to get back to you on. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't.
That.
All right, well, if Susan made a note of it.
Can I
that's probably
provide
what
that
it
as
is.
Can I provide that prior to the decision?
Yes, you can provide
Okay.
that prior to the
Sure.
decision. And also, as I said, the survey had to be revised to show flood zone line.
Yes, ma'am, and we did do that. That was provided to Marty, and I can also provide that
Okay.
to the
All
board.
right, so we need to get some new materials from you. And
Sure.
that can be done as written submissions.
No problem.
And assuming that there's no problem with those written submissions, then I think we can move ahead.
Put it on for 7-3.
Hold on. What did you say?
No, after you ask, just put it on for 7-3, because he's not gonna get all that stuff.
Yeah, okay. All right, so Helen, this is yours, but I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna say we're going to close the public hearing, and we're going to leave it open for written comments until June 20th, with a decision on July 3rd.
Before you go next, you just definitely, so you want to revise survey showing the flood zone line?
Yes.
And what was
The certificate of compliance for the 2 sheds,
CC
and
sheds?
and we wanted the
And
conservation
permit. Got it.
permit.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, you got the motion.
Board, just one, I'm sorry, one question. If I only have a certificate of compliance for one shed, but the other shed is on the conservation, is allowed by conservation, and obviously I could file that with the building department with no zoning issues, that would be acceptable as well.
If it complies with zoning.
If it complies with zoning, yeah.
Sure, understood.
Setbacks, you know, the
Thank you.
usual.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to repeat. Written comments due by June 20th with a decision on 7/3.
Second.
Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, aye.
Mr. Redpath?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Kane?
Aye.
All right, chair votes aye. Okay, thank you very much, Anthony.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time, board. Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you. Number 12 on the agenda, application of Gary Fitterman, 645 Dune Road, West Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-391-2-25.1.
Okay.
Coming
Is there
on now.
somebody here on
Yeah,
Zoom?
he's on Zoom. He's on Zoom.
Hello, board members. Can you see me?
Yes, and I've sworn you in. Just state your name again for the record.
Sure. It's Ryan T. Kestner. Ryan T. Kestner, Architect, PC, 509 County Road 39, Southampton, New York.
Okay, Ryan, when last you were here, we specifically asked you to go through the letters from Janice Shira and Marty Shea, and to clarify exactly what the variances that you were requesting, and you responding to their positions.
Correct.
And you have submitted to us a response.
Correct. I
Covers
responded
that.
to it. Yes.
A very extensive response.
It's this one, Sean.
Yeah, probably read it now.
I don't think we need to go through each of the points unless anybody feels strongly about that.
We basically, we did exactly what you asked for, and we answered it in as, as effectively as we possibly could along the way. And I mean, we've done everything that this board has possibly asked of us to cooperate and make this work.
I agree. Is there anybody, I know we've got this in advance. Did you guys have a chance to take a look at it? Do you have any comments about it?
I have one operational question. So there's reference made in the submission that talks about a landscape plan that still has to be done and is to come in. And we should just be sure that we have somebody tasked to review its adequacy for submission. So it's the right landscape plan, right?
Well,
I'm sorry.
So may I interject? Because the conservation and planning will be reviewing that regardless. That's what their position is. As we go through that particular application, we submit landscape plans and things of that nature, and they review it. And I'm positive Marty Shea is going to look at every plant and cross every T and dot every I. I mean, he's phenomenal when it comes to that.
So long
stuff.
as Marty's the determiner on the adequacy of that,
Yes.
I'm satisfied with that.
Yes, he will be.
I will say for the record, I still think this should be set back further. I understand the moment in time we're in, and while I appreciate, some effort was made to sort of reduce some of this and shrink it a tad, that, most of the distance removed from the dune crest at the start to today is less than the length of this table. So, I say it for the record, you don't even have to respond, but I'm still saying it.
And I just want to say for the record, Ryan, that I think you have been very responsive to our request. And it's an unusual piece of property. I mean, it's a vulnerable piece of property, and we were very concerned about it. And I think, you've been responsive to, us. Is there anybody else on the board who wishes to comment on this application? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on this application?
Hey, you.
Is there anybody on Zoom who wishes to comment?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, this is Roberts, and I'm going to take it. So we're going to hold it open for written comments until,
Do the 7-3 as well.
what?
6:20 with decision 7-3.
Okay, we're going to hold it open for written comments until 6:20 with a decision on 7-3. Is there a second? Okay, Ms. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Redmond?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you very much.
Okay. And Ms. Burgess, I just wanted you to know I did not say anything modest or anything like that. I understand.
You've been listening. You have been listening,
I know you.
Ryan. Yeah, you can pass the test. Okay.
All right, guys, have a terrific evening. Get home
All right,
safe.
thanks so much.
As long as we make Helen happy.
Are you here for a decision? Which decision are you here for? Bernardo. Okay, Kevin, do you want to read the Bernardo decision? 'Cause I think that's the one I gave you, but
I'll read it, but I don't have
Your
it.
pink pad.
here it is. There you go.
Okay.
Okay, we're up to decisions. All right, go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve the application of Joseph and Valerie Bernardo, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-176-1-37. This application is for a property located at 25 Boathouse Road, Shinnecock Hills. Applicant requests a single and separate determination for a non-conforming lot. After reviewing the testimony and evidence presented, this board finds that the subject premises is Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-176-1-37 is held in single and separate ownership from all adjacent parcels and thus entitled to relief pursuant to Town Code Section 330-115D.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Yes. Aye. Yes.
Kane? Aye. Mr. Redmond?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going back.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you? Uh-oh. Okay, I have, for Helen, I have a minor decision in the application of Cole and Heidi Magner, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-371-1-34.1. This is a minor application for property located at 791 Montauk Highway, Queog. Applicant seeks variances for a proposed pool on a non-conforming lot. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code Section 330-6, General Regulations, that references 330-11, Resident Districts Tables of Dimensional Regulations, for an accessory distance from front line setback of 52.8 feet, where 70 feet is required for a proposed pool on a non-conforming lot as shown on the survey prepared by David H. Fox, L.S. of Foxland Surveying, last updated March 18, 2025. Grant of the foregoing is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired and may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of subject premises, including the removal or legalization of any shed at the front of the garage prior to the issuance of a certificate for the proposed pool.
Second.
Ms. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Redmond?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, I have another one. This is combining two applications for 96 Wilshire Street LLC, Kevin Tereski, applicant, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-132-1-6. These two applications concern property located at 96 Wilshire Street, North Sea, and this decision addresses both application numbers 2400142 and 2400143. Applicant Kevin Tereski is an adjacent property owner who challenged the issuance of a building permit change of use tenancy and a certificate of compliance for a plant nursery, asserting that site plan approval from the Southampton Town Planning Board is required, and that the premises is not being used in conformance with the conditions set forth in the permit or certificate. After considering the testimony presented at the public hearings and reviewing the evidence submitted in the record, this board finds that both the permit and certificate were issued properly. Specifically, since the building department required the property owner to apply for a change of tenancy/use by way of a building permit, this board finds that the change in use from agriculture to vacant and then to agriculture again, or even from the current vacant lot to agriculture, meets the criteria set forth for site plan exemption in Town Code Section 330-181A4. Both uses are permitted within the same use classification as the premises were previously used as agriculture and is currently vacant and do not increase the required parking. While this board is sensitive to the concerns from neighbors who preferred that the planning board further review the plant nursery use, it is important to note that the certificate of compliance here was issued with its own conditions and requirements, several of which were noted in the planning board's pre-submission conference report. Likewise, while this board is cognizant of the complaints voiced by the neighbors for noncompliance with the conditions of the certificate of compliance, that is a matter for code enforcement and is not a basis for this board to find that the certificate was issued in error. Therefore, this board finds that the change in tenancy permit and the certificate of compliance issued by the building department in connection with property located at 96 Wiltshire Street, North Sea, were properly issued and filed and remain valid.
Second.
Ms. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Redhand?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess? Chair votes aye. Okay, John,
Okay, I have a decision in the application of Thomas Walker, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-179-1-29. This application is for property located at 1311 Flying Point Road, Watermill. Applicant seeks variances to elevate an existing dwelling, reconstruct and expand decking on the landward side of the house, all in connection with raising the dwelling to comply with FEMA. This board finds that the application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed front elevated deck. Town Code Section 138.9B and 138.17C, Coastal Erosion Hazard Area Regulations, to reconstruct a deck and expand a deck on the north landward side of the house and to elevate the existing house to comply with FEMA and town elevation requirements for a house situated on a non-conforming lot in a special flood hazard area, as shown on the survey prepared by Lester Holden, LS, of Squires Holden, Weisenbacher, and Smith, last revised September 13, 2024. Granted, the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval, including 1. No stormwater runoff shall be discharged into the adjoining body of water, and 2. Securing a coastal erosion management permit to address any needed dune restoration.
Second.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Redhand?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
No.
Ms. Burgess?
Oh,
Chair votes aye. Okay, John Orr.
Decision for 8 Two Trees LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-7-1-2.16. This application is for property located at 8 Two Trees Lane, Bridgehampton. Applicant seeks variances for proposed paddle court. After the applicant modified the plans to relocate the court from the front yard to the rear yard and agreed to install evergreen screening, this board finds that the applicant passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and Town Code. Therefore, the board grants relief from Town Code 330-6, General Regulations, that references Town Code 330-11, Residence District Table Dimensional Regulations, for an accessory side yard setback of 15 feet where 30 feet is required, and for an accessory rear yard setback of 20 feet where 30 feet is required, for a proposed 32-foot by 66-foot paddle court, as shown on the survey prepared by Stephen Barliski, LC, last revised April 29th, 2025. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises. including the installation and continued maintenance of evergreen screening by the applicant and all successors in interest as shown on the aforementioned survey.
Second.
Mr. Redmond.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Julie, you next.
Yes. I have a decision in the matter of Stephen and Karen Gwenjoyan, Suffolk County Town Map 900-380-2-100. This application is for property located at 13 Felix Avenue, Remsenburg. Applicant requests variances to maintain a pool with non-conforming setbacks that was built pursuant to the building permit, but with a non-compliant setback due to a contractor error. While this board does not condone construction done in error, it does find the application passes the standards set forth in New York State town law and the town code. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code Section 330-6, General Regulations, that references, and Section 330-11, Residence District Tables of Dimensional Regulations for an accessory side yard setback of 17.1 feet, where 20 feet is required to maintain a pool in its current location on a non-conforming lot, as shown in the survey prepared by Nathan Taft Corwin III, LS, last updated December 20, 2024. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicants have already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including ensuring that a pool code compliant enclosure is in place prior to the issuance of any certificate for the existing pool.
Second.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Redmond.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Chair votes aye.
Okay, I have a decision in the application of Colleen Donahue, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-42-3-35. This application is for property located at 15 Devon Place, North C. Applicant requests a single and separate determination for non-conforming lot. After reviewing the testimony and evidence presented, this board finds that the subject premises, that is Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-42-3-35, is held in single and separate ownership from all adjacent parcels, and thus is entitled to relief pursuant to Town Code Section 330-115D, so long as the common ownership of the two properties is separated within 6 months of the filing of this decision with the town clerk.
Second.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Redmond.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Chair votes aye. Okay, Julie.
No, me, got me.
I did ask you. Did I hear your answer?
I don't think you asked me, but
All
you
right.
can ask.
Ms.
Yeah.
Burgess.
Aye.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I have a decision in the matter of Denise Sokolich, Suffolk County Town Map 900-155-1-31. This application is for property located at 102 Cold Spring Point Road, Tuckahoe. Applicant seeks variances to redevelop the premises with a new one-family dwelling, pool, and accessory building where the lot is undersized and burdened by wetlands. Since the proposed development increases the existing setbacks from the wetlands, and with the condition that vegetative screening be installed and maintained, the board finds that this application passes the standards set forth in New York State town law and the town code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the town code. 1, for a new one-family dwelling, little I, Section 330-83K yards as it relates to Section 330-11, Residence District Tables of Dimensional Regulations for a principal rear yard setback from 35 feet to 24.3 feet, and double little I, Section 330-84D, Pyramid Law for a sky plan encroachment to the west of 220 cubic feet. 2, for a proposed one-story garage accessory building, little I, Section 330-11, for an accessory rear yard setback from 40 feet to 15.5 feet, and an accessory distance from the front lot line from 70 feet to 45.4 feet. Double little I, Section 330-76D, placement of accessory buildings, structures, and uses in all districts, and Section 330-83C, yards, to allow the one-story garage building/accessory building to be located in the required front yard and the required side yard for the principal building, and I, section 330-84D for a sky plane encroachment to the east of 271.6 cubic feet, and 3 for a proposed pool, I, section 330-11 for an accessory rear yard setback from 40 feet to 36.2 feet, and an accessory distance from the front lot line from 70 feet to 36.3 feet, I, section 330-76D and section 330-83C to allow the pool to be located in the required front yard for the principal building, shown on the survey prepared by Robert A. Smith, LS, of Squires Holden, Weissenbacher and Smith, last revised on April 29, 2025. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, and I, ensuring that no stormwater runoff be discharged into the adjoining body of water, and I, the installation and maintenance of additional vegetative screening by the applicant and all successors in interest as shown on the Upland Natives landscaping plan prepared by Matt Ivins, dated November 25, 2024.
Second.
Ms. Kane? Aye. Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Redhand?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.